If you're watching this video, I know you've probably seen a bunch of other sales videos online about how to handle I need to think about it, and this objection handling script works for me, and this has made me $1 billion, so on and so forth. I totally get it. But I think everybody can agree every single sales call ends in one of three ways. It's a yes, it's a no, or there's an objection. And 9 times out of 10, there's an objection, and that's why there's actually a need for salespeople, and people don't just go through marketing funnels and sign up and pay thousands and thousands of dollars for programs. Because if you're taking calls, or you're managing a sales team, or you're an offer owner with like a closer or two, and you're managing that person, it's really important to understand and to make sure that they understand that you have to plan and prepare for no. That's the whole reason why there's a job, is people are going to say no. There's going to be an objection. And I think I find it hard because I watch these YouTube videos myself, and everyone always has like a perfect script, or they talk so much about mindset and psychology behind sales, which is good. Again, I respect it. I think everybody has a good take on things. But for me, it was always way too overcomplicated. So my goal with this video, and it's probably gonna be a bit of a longer video, is to completely simplify sales and more, I guess, simplify high ticket sales, because that's been the industry that I've been in for a long time. Came up as a closer, then started my own business, also started my own info product. So I've kind of seen it from 3 different angles, and now I manage sales teams for high ticket info offers. So I really kind of have a good grasp on like everything is actually much simpler than a lot of people try to make it. So I'm not going to be getting too much into like buyer psychology and all like the scientific methods and all that bullshit. I'm going to kind of just be giving you guys the complete raw honesty of how I think about sales and why I think it's been able to really help train a lot of other people, because I try to dumb it down as much as possible. Let's just get right into it. So first things first, the main thing to understand with like how this objection handling framework is going to work, and honestly how the whole sales call should move and how it should go, is understanding there's 3 real objections. So every single objection bottles down to these 3 things. There's really only 3 real objections. So like I need to think about it, and editor, you can go ahead and just pop up a whole bunch of like different objections that I've gotten and like call recordings, so the people know that this is real. That I need to think about it, I need to run it by my partner, I need to do the numbers. All those are just smokescreen. It's always the first objection they give you, right? That's why like I need to think about it, such a classic one, because it's smokescreen, it's not real. The 3 real objections is trust, fear, or urgency, right? Put simply. So they don't trust you, right? Or they have fear that it's not gonna work, or it's not gonna work for them. And urgency is, quite frankly, right? They like everything, but it's not the time to move it, right? They don't need to do it right now. Urgency, for example, this is a very big one that we can actually prevent in discovery, which I'm gonna do a quick kind of overview of what questions we should be asking in the beginning, leading up to the temp check and the objection handling, to actually arm ourselves with the information that we can use to handle the objections. So the main thing to understand here is from these 3, there's really one main objection, and that is uncertainty. That's really what trust and fear bottles down to. And uncertainty is really the main objection that you're going to get. I would say 99% of objections, especially now in 2025 and high ticket offers, is uncertainty. Uncertainty about one of 2 things. 1, they don't believe it works, quite simply, right? They don't really believe that your product or service actually works, and that's the first one. Or 2, they don't believe it actually works for them personally. And that's really the big thing here, because this is really what most of them come down to. This is what most objections come down to, is that they believe it works because of the social proof, because of the results, the testimonials that you market, but there's something that they've been through in the past, they've been burned, that they still have that weird belief that, hey, I love everything about it, but I'm scared because I've been burned before, right? There's something along the lines that they don't think it's gonna work for them personally, right? And really what that means is they are burned. They are burned. If you're managing a sales team, or you own an offer yourself and you have a closer or 2 closers, and they're always telling you the leads suck, the leads suck, the leads suck, the leads don't suck. And if you're a closer watching this, it's not the leads. They've just been burned. It's 2025. If you're selling info, everybody has bought a course, a program that didn't work, that they feel like was a scam, or it didn't work for them personally, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's usually because of them. They didn't take the actions. There's a reason why there's a program that a lot of people can get results for and they can't. But there's a reason why we have to actually ask a lot of these questions deeper before we even get to the objection, to really kind of actually understand what it is that didn't work, why it didn't happen, why it didn't work, and what do they need from deliverable wise moving forward for this to actually work and believe that it's going to work for them. So this is where we're going to kind of get into some more of the discovery questions. So understanding now that there's only 3 real main objections, right? And I'm always going to come back up to this because I want to make this very clear. Trust, fear, and urgency. 99% of the time, it's going to be uncertainty. So understanding that is going to be where 9 times out of 10 the objection is going to come from. These are the type of questions that we need to be asking in discovery before we get into our pitch. So there's three main things to think about. And I'm gonna quickly go over this because I don't wanna make a whole video around discovery. And if you guys want me to make another video about this, in terms of like preventing objections in the entire sales process, comment below. But for this video, I'm gonna be really focusing on like the temp check and objection handling. But I do have to do a quick preface around discovery to show you guys what ammunition, what information are we gathering early in the call to actually use as leverage to handle the objection and close the deal. So in discovery, which is the beginning, really the first 20 minutes of the call usually, sometimes even more. I don't like to put a timeline on it, but there's a few main things that we need to actually get in discovery, right? Number one is current situation. You'll always hear people talk about building the gap, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanna keep this super simple and not make this feel like a bunch of regurgitated sales content you've already seen, right? Current situation. And underneath that as well, what is their current strategy? What are they currently doing? Why is it not working? Right, and again, it's gonna be, there's a lot more that goes into this, but I'm gonna kind of speed run the discovery process, right? 2, desired situation, right? And this is where kind of the gap comes in. And alongside that, right, deliverables, they need to make this real, right? What do they need from us to make this real? And I would also even, and further with that, why, right? But asking this in a lot less salesy way. And I'll give you guys some context for this once we kind of go deeper into each of these three things, right? Why do they actually need this situation? Why do they need those specific deliverables? And asking that without asking the classic why question that's really salesy and really corny, right? Third thing is, once they get those current, desired situation and the deliverables that go into that, timeline. And this is actually where, let me go ahead and change the color here. We prevent urgency. That's where we prevent urgency early in the call, as well as build leverage to handle any urgency objection that comes up, right? And that's why 99% of them is gonna boil down into uncertainty. So let's keep going with this. So just to give you a quick kind of like speed run of discovery, we're asking what their current situation is, right? What are they currently doing to get that situation? Why is that not working, right? And I'll give you even a little more of like a real-time context example. Because one of our info products is we're helping marketing agencies scale. So for example, if I'm talking to a marketing agency and they're doing 10K a month and they wanna scale to 100K a month, again, when I'm setting the frame and I'm getting to discovery, I can make a whole video on this, right? I'm getting a bird's eye view of their business, kind of give me some context on where you're at, disarm them, get them talking about themselves, because that's really what they're here for. They don't give a fuck about you, they give a fuck about them, right? So how are we actually currently generating business? How are we currently acquiring business? Are we running ads? Are we doing cold email? Are we getting referrals? Are we making content, right? What are we actually doing, right? And why is that not working? Gosh, have you tried ads before? Oh, you spent money on ads and that didn't work, right? Or let's give you an even bigger example, right? If you're selling to a local business and you're running ads for local businesses, kind of like a classic SMMA example, and everybody's been burned by another marketing agency, don't just kind of scroll past that, but when you're in a discovery process, you have to actually unpack that. Hey, so I know you mentioned you've worked with a few other agencies, or you might even have to ask that, hey, have you worked with another marketing agency before, right? And how'd that go? Oh, they suck, the leads suck. Gotcha, well look, I talked to a lot of different business owners. Leads suck can mean, different things to different people. What specifically kind of went wrong there? Was it they weren't getting enough volume? It wasn't enough quality? Oh, it was a quality thing. And see how I'm going deeper and deeper, right? So what does quality mean for you? What exactly do you mean by there weren't quality, right? And actually get an idea of what they actually mean by why is that not working? And then we're getting the desired situation, right? So let's say, Mr. Prospect, okay, so if you can get that process kind of buttoned up, where are we really looking to scale the business? Let's call it 3 to 6 months here. Where do you want the business to be? Oh, well, I want to be at 100K a month, right? And then I'm getting deliverables they need to actually get there. Gotcha. So with that being said, what specifically do you need from us? What boxes do you need checked off from us in our program to actually help you hit that result, right? Realistically. And I'll pre-frame questions, right? Like where I'm talking about, hey man, I can sit here and tell you the moon and the stars and we can guarantee you anything, but I'd rather be honest with you right now and lose your business potentially versus just trying to sell you something that you might not even need. What specifically, what boxes do you need checked off from us to actually feel confident in hitting that, in hitting 100K a month and hitting that desired situation, right? The why question, right? Hey, you mentioned you want to get to 100K a month. Don't ask please, for the love of God, don't say, so what's really beneath that? Why do you want to hit 100K? Guys, especially if you're selling B2B, if you're selling to business owners, you don't need to ask them their emotional reason why they want to make more money. They're on the call for a reason. They're on the call to make more money. So you don't need to go all into their psychology of why and their family. And look, maybe I'll get flagged for this, but me personally, I've never done that. I've been a little more straightforward where it's like, hey, look, man, I speak to a lot of different companies. Some guys want to scale to 100K a month to the point where they can maybe potentially exit at some point. Some guys just want that extra cash flow. And maybe some guys, they have so much margin and overhead that they're really just trying to keep the lights on, and keep their company profitable. For you, and you mentioned 100K a month, I mean, what's kind of like the reason you kind of want to hit that? Like, what's kind of behind it, right? And notice how I'm asking that question. It's not the salesy, why do you want to hit 100K a month? It's pre-framing the question to give them an example. I've spoken to a lot of clients, and I have a lot of clients raising my authority frame, but I want to know why is behind that, right? And if you're talking to like a business owner, right? So let's even go even deeper. Let's say I'm talking to a blue collar roofer. I might ask him that, right? Hey, man, we speak to a lot of different roofing companies. Some guys want to hit $2 million a year just because like they want to be able to not have to worry about expenses and just kind of keep overhead low and be able to keep profit margins month after month. And other guys have a kind of a bigger goal in the back of their mind where they really want to scale even beyond that and exit their company. For you, when you mentioned $2 million a year, like what does that actually look like? Where I'm getting that why behind it, where I'm getting the deliverables. And again, I can make a whole different video on the discovery process because it goes much more deeper than what I'm doing right now, but I'm giving you some context on the information that we're gathering in discovery to use as leverage to handle objections later on, especially in the temp check. And the timeline question, and this is this is another one, right? You do not need to ask the salesy question of, so when do you want to make a decision, right? Fuck that. That's so salesy. They've heard that 1,000 times. So why don't we turn that on its head and ask a better question, right? You just ask what boxes do they need checked off from you to actually get the end result. So what I'll ask is, right before I kind of get into my transition and my pitch, I'll ask the question where it's like, cool, man, well, as far as your timeline goes, as soon as you can find a program or a system that actually does check those boxes, I mean, how soon are you looking to get the ball rolling? Notice how that question is so much less salesy. It rolls off the tongue. It's not overbearing. And they're going to tell me most times when I've done a good job at getting their current situation, I've understood what's going wrong and why it's going wrong. I've understood where they're looking to go and what their actual desired situation is if they can get that fixed. I've understood what boxes they need checked from us to actually hit that goal and the reason why they want to hit that goal. And then now by the time I'm asking, hey, what's your timeline as far as if you can find that solution? Every single time, ASAP. Every single time. And if they don't tell you ASAP or yesterday, then guess what? You stop. Let me do this. Let me make this real simple for y'all. Stop, stop sign, sorry, and handle the objection, right? Or / prevent. It's an obstacle. So if they tell me, hey man, maybe in like a couple months or so, I'm not gonna just go right into my pitch. Cool, man, sounds good. We'll get this going in a couple months. Stop what you're doing and prevent the objection. Right, and this is where even like when we get into the objection handling framework, I'll teach you guys how to do this, but it's just asking more questions, right? It's not making statements, it's asking questions because they can't disagree with questions, they can disagree with statements. Where let's say everything's going well in discovery, the guy's like, yeah, maybe in a couple months out. It's like, cool, man, I guess just for clarity on my side, I mean, you mentioned you want to go from 10K a month to 100,000 a month, and that these were kind of all the issues. If we could kind of provide you those solutions, like why 2 months versus right away, right? I'm actually going to ask these questions up front. Right, I'm not going to just scroll past it and act like it never happened because that's actually going to bite me in the ass later on and waste me an hour of time on my call. And if you have 6 calls a day as a closer and you're back to back to back, you don't want to just be on 4-hour calls every single day and wasting your time, right? So let's get back into this. So that's the discovery, right? And then of course we have the transition with identity bias, which I'm not going to talk too much about this today, but if you guys want me to make a video on that, we can, on the full process. Then we get into the pitch, right? And more actually, I call this the perfect pitch. And the reason why I call this the perfect pitch is because your pitch is built on your discovery, right? Your pitch is built on all the questions you ask in discovery because you're gonna actually wanna build a customized approach, a personalized approach when you're pitching your product. You don't wanna say the same thing to every single person. For example, if you're selling an agency coaching offer, for example, because like that's something that we've done before. And someone's really, really struggling with marketing and sales and they have a great product, but they just cannot continue. Why would I go into my pitch and talk about all the different systems and how we can automate onboarding and how we can do all this stuff around building systems and backend when that's not really what they need help with? They really need help with marketing and sales, optimizing their offer, getting paid ads up, actually getting a sustainable acquisition system to where they're getting leads consistently, and how can we actually convert those leads into money, into actual revenue? How can we make sure that our close rates are at KPI? How can we make sure we're actually making the leads that we're paying for profitable for us, right? So your pitch, again, I'm not gonna make this video about a pitch, but it is built on a good discovery. And these are all gonna come in handy when I talk about objection handling, because your pitch should be perfect and personalized to the problems that they're running into and the solutions that they're looking for, right? Now, what we've all been waiting for. we're gonna get to objection handling. And this is a big, big thing that not enough people talk about, and this is where it's gonna make a massive game changer. If you've stuck with me this long and if you watch this video, you're gonna start seeing an increase in sales immediately. Objection handling starts at the temp check. Now, why would I do that? Why would I handle objection to that temp check? Because, like I mentioned, you are on the offensive all the way up until you drop your price. The minute your prospects know your price, you lose leverage. They have the most important information about you that they need, right? And that makes it the easiest for them to just make a decision and say no. So you have all the leverage all the way up until the point that they know your price. So I'm not just gonna go right from the pitch and yeah, this is what it costs, and let's just battle and get in a boxing match about yes or no. I'm gonna ask the temp check question. And this is really, really huge in how you do it. You don't wanna ask the temp check of, so how you feeling about everything? You like it? That's the easiest way for them to say, yeah, man, I've loved it. You know, it's like if you take a girl out on a date and she's a kind girl, she's a nice girl, and it's a super boring date. You know you folded. You know, like maybe you forgot to take a shower, you were stinky, you picked her up in a Buick Century, shout out my Buick Century in 2003, the first car I ever had, right? Like a shitty car, like you know she didn't have that good at the time. Not saying that materials matter with that type of thing, but you know what I mean? I'm just kind of give you a real world example. They're always gonna be like, yeah, man, I had fun, but they're not gonna hit you up again, right? So you wanna ask specific questions to get specific answers. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Specific questions get specific answers. And this is why it's so important. So on my temp check, I'm asking a 1 through 10, price aside, right? I'm still keeping price aside. I don't want to be talking about numbers yet, right? So for example, you don't want to do the super salesy approach where it's like, so on a scale of 1 to 10, do you want to buy my product? You don't want to do that shit. But what you want to do is you want to ask a question where, you know, again, your tonality is good at this point. You've done such a good discovery process. You've built such a massive gap from where they're at and where they want to be. And you've discovered all the issues that went wrong in the past because you know uncertainty is going to be the main objection 9 times out of 10. So you're digging into the uncertainty early on. You know they've been burned. What went wrong? Why weren't you able to succeed with the last program? What were they missing? You know, and walk me through what specific things you would need, what boxes you need checked from a new company, from a new partnership, from a new mentorship that would actually help you hit this desired goal. And you got a timeline that it's ASAP, that they want to move forward as soon as those boxes are checked. You have so much leverage, and you pitched every single thing custom to them. You made your pitch customized to them and tailored your solutions custom to their problems. By the time you get to the temp check, you have the authority to be like, cool, man, well, before we kind of jump into the numbers, I know we've had a great conversation so far, but price aside, on a scale of 1 to 10, and you don't have to, you know, you don't have to beat around the bush, you can shoot me straight. You know, I'm a man, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. If 1's like, Clay, you know, I've heard this before, it sounds good in theory, but I really don't know if this is for me. And 10 is like, this is checking all my boxes, you know, where the hell can I get started? And you can shoot straight. I mean, price aside, I mean, where do you feel like just based on the system, right? Why am I asking you 1 through 10? Is because I want a specific answer. Because if they give me a 7.5, what I'll do is I'll disarm immediately. Man, so you're giving me like a C. Man, I was hoping I'd do a little bit better than a C. I feel like we had a good conversation. Haha, right, disarm, good playful tonality. Nah, you know, maybe I'll give you like an 8, man. It's better than a C, right? You turn a 7.5 into an 8. What's keeping us from a 10 is the next thing you want to know, right? And I'll even give you guys some even more sauce. Oops, sorry. Oof. You guys, man, he knows how to sell, but his handwriting is absolute dog shit. He can go to kindergarten. I know, I get it. But right here, this is where I'm like, cool, man. I guess, you know, 8. I mean, what makes it? I guess what's keeping us from a 10? You know, I notice I'm curious. Just curious, man. Like, just for and sometimes I'll pre-frame this, right? Hey, man, just for like kind of feedback from me, like, what's kind of keeping us from a 10? Like, what's missing? And this is really where you're actually going to get the real objection. And you can also ask. You can stay in this a little bit longer. You might even ask, like, cool. So what makes it an 8 versus like a 1 or a 2? Because then they're gonna start telling you some things that they like about the program. And then the follow up is like, you know, okay, well, I mean, what's keeping us from a 10 then? When you ask this question of like, hey, okay, man, so what's keeping us from a 10? What's missing, you know, just for feedback on my side, you're going to get the real objection. That's what that question is going to do. You're going to draw out the real objection before the whole I need to think about it's come, right? And what do you think that real objection is? What do you think it is? Uncertainty. They're uncertain about something, right? 9 times out of 10, because they have been burned. So you notice how it all comes back together. It all comes back to this same thing every fucking time. They've been burned. Fire emoji, if I could do that right now, right? They've been burned. And this is where the objection handling framework comes in handy, okay? Now this is where, I know, and it'll take us a minute to get here, but this is where it all comes down to the objection handling framework. And this objection handling framework is so important to understand and educate yourself on, because it's not a word track or a script that you have to memorize on 15 different objections. It's such a stupid way. And for me, when I'm managing sales reps, I don't want to have to go build out 45 different scripts for 45 different objections and have them memorize that like fucking postcards. Like, no, I'm not going to do that, right? Like, I'd rather just teach them an objection handling framework for them to really understand. So no matter what objections get thrown at them, they can handle this, right? So the objection handling framework is called SBIFORE. And it stands for clarify, isolate, validate, reframe. You're asking clarify, and this is another thing I want to make very clear. These are questions, not statements. Why? Because they can disagree with statements, they cannot disagree with questions. Right? I want to make that super clear. So every stage of this objection handling framework called SBIFORE, clarify, isolate, validate, reframe, and it's very simple. Don't shoot yourself in the foot here. Super simple. Is you're asking clarifying questions to pretty much see through the smoke. I need to think about it. And let's go ahead and break this down, right? The classic, everyone loves to talk about this. I need to think about it, right? And notice, guys, this is all before we drop price. This is what I'm doing before we drop price, because this 1 through 10, they're going to tell us they've been burned, right? Like, honestly, you don't even have to worry about I need to think about it, because you already discovered what the real objection is. It's uncertainty. They've been burned before. So you can even skip through this whole I need to think about it and immediately clarify and isolate to the fact that they've been burned, right? So, and I'm not going to script this whole thing out. I'm just going to talk to you guys here because it's a little bit easier than writing it all out with my shitty handwriting. So now that we know, okay, I've been burned, right? You're on your temp check. It's a 1 through 10. They're at an 8 because they've been burned before. And this is where you're clarifying and isolating, right? And a lot of times you're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth from clarify, isolate, validate, reframe, clarify, isolate, validate, reframe, clarify, isolate, validate, reframe, ask for the sale. And I'll give you an example for what I mean by this. Cool, man. So just for clarity on my side, this is a quick hack, especially if you're a manager managing different closers. I always have them use that frame of just for clarity, right? Because just for clarity, that mental statement gets you right into this framework of SBIFORE. So, hey man, just for clarity on my side, I know we kind of went through everything, and it sounded like everything was kind of checking your boxes. Just for clarity on my side, is it really just because you had that one scenario in the past, right? You've worked with that other mentor, you've been in another program that, it felt really good at the time, it felt like a great heat of the moment decision, but you got in the program and you didn't get the results, right? And that's why you're kind of still stuck after the last 6 months, right? Is that really what's kind of keeping you hesitating, right? And notice my tone out, is that why you're hesitating? It's curious, it's concerned, it's slow, the pacing is slow, right? I'm not on top of them, I'm not in their face, I'm leaning back. A lot of times when I'm in my chair, sometimes I might even be like this. I'm relaxed, man. Like, cool, man. So, like, just for clarity, I mean, I know we kind of went through everything, and it seemed like everything was kind of checking your boxes. Like, is it really just because you've went through that other mentor before, you had that other program, and everything sounded good just like it has today, but 6 months later, here we are again, and you're looking for a new mentor? Is that kind of what's keeping you from is that kind of what's keeping it from a 10? Is that why you're hesitating, right? Normally, and to keep this video somewhat short, Let's assume that worked, right? Let's assume they're like, yeah, man, that's really what it is, right? And they're being real with you from the jump. From there, that's when we're going to be isolating and validating and reframing. And these two steps happen very quickly. Isolating and validating happens really quickly. So when I'm isolating, I am isolating on the fact that they have been burned and nothing else, right? They've been burned before, right? So let me do this. Isolating on the fact that they've been burned before, and it's not trust, fear, or urgency about the program, right? That's what I'm doing. So for example, when I'm isolating on the fact that they've been burned before, this is what an isolation will sound like. Cool, man. So again, just for clarity on my side, it's not necessarily like you don't trust us or that you don't think this can work. Because I know you've seen all the different results, and you came to us organically. I know you have some belief there, and it's obviously the right time to move forward, right? You mentioned as soon as you can find something that checks your boxes, it's time to move forward. It's really just the fact that you kind of have that a little bit of hesitancy because of what's happened before, right? You've been burned before, right? I'm isolating. I'm getting him to say, yeah, man, that's really all it is, right? Him or her. From there, that's where I'm going to validate, hey, totally understand. I totally understand, man. I get it. And like I speak to a lot of different agency owners every single day, and this is actually very normal. Like probably 9 out of 10 of my clients have been burned by 2 or 3 other programs before they came in. So I totally get it. I understand there's concern there, right? I'm validating. Notice what I'm doing is I'm letting him know that I hear him, I'm listening, but I'm not telling him that his concern is the correct notion. It's not right. I'm just letting him know that I understand him. I'm listening, right? And from here, this is where we get into the reframe, into asking for the sale. And I'll show you how this works. God, this handwriting is bad. I'm just trying to go really fast for y'all. Got to keep viewer retention. I'm trying to keep the value per minute up here. So when I'm reframing, and a reframing is really all about a question, right? So what a reframe is you're asking leading questions to help them come to their own conclusion that the best decision for their business, and now I'm taking my time with this because I want you guys to really feel this. You're reframing by asking leading questions to help them come to their own conclusion that the best decision for their business is to move forward. Right? Forward, whatever. AKA, yes. That's what reframing is. So let's go back to the example, right? So we've isolated. Hey, we validated. I totally understand the concern. It's very normal. And this is where you're reframing. And now I'm just going to talk to you guys because this is really where the real sauce comes in. So let's use that same example, right? They've been burned before. We've isolated on the fact that it's uncertainty, and that's really the only main thing that's keeping them back, right? Nothing else. And notice this is all happening again before we drop price because we still have all the leverage, right? This is where I'm asking him the next thing I'm asking him, right? Cool, man. So I mean, I know you mentioned you've been burned before. I guess I'm just curious, like, if you hadn't worked with that other program, if you haven't paid that other guy, and obviously there's certain things that you didn't have control over, but if you hadn't made that decision in the past and that didn't happen, I mean, do you think today, if the numbers worked, you'd be able to like, this is a straight go and it'd be an easier decision for you? AKA, if you hadn't been burned, would you say yes? That's really what I'm asking in a way better way, in a way better frame, right? This is gonna be like, yeah, man, I mean, of course, like it'd be much easier. And this is where really the reframing comes in because I'm asking leading questions to help them come to their own conclusion that the best decision for their business is to move forward, right? So this is where I'm going to ask them, well, look, man, I mean, I know you've been stuck here around 10K a month for the last 6 months or so. And I mean, it's been almost over a year since you were in that program. So it's like, this is the kicker, right? This is where I'm asking another why question. I mean, why would you let that decision that obviously didn't benefit your business keep you kind of being stuck 6 months later to make a decision that could potentially help you grow from 10 to 100K a month? And notice how my tonality is not on top of him. I'm not trying to challenge him so much, or I am challenging him, but I'm not like in his face about it, right? I'm asking a leading question. I'm saying, hey man, like, I know you've been burned before, but like, why would you let that single decision hold power over the way you make decisions for your business moving forward? Right? Know what that's doing is for him, he's sitting there thinking like, fuck, I'm letting this one decision that burned me before literally dictate the way I make decisions for my business. And that's what you're trying to help him discover and change his mindset on, his or her. I know I'm talking about his a lot. And it's so huge because this is where they're gonna start to come to their own conclusion that they're wrong about that they've been burned. They're wrong about their uncertainty. And it's not that they're uncertain about you or if they can make it work. They're uncertain about the fact that they've been burned before and that has a little hiccup. It's kind of like when someone has like a really bad relationship and maybe they go through a divorce or something and like they're so closed off to new people. It's the same kind of mental frame that they're going into with their business. And you can use those frames, but I found those aren't always the best, especially at scale. And from here, that's where he's gonna start giving you some questions, right? Yeah, man, I mean, I guess you're right. Like, I don't know, right? And that's where it's like, cool, man. So I mean, if we can make the numbers work, and I mean, you mentioned yourself that like there are a lot of different things that we're doing that do make you feel like, you can make this work. And let me ask you one question before we kind of jump into the numbers. Like, do you believe that this will work? Like, do you believe personally? Because I know I can show you 40 other different testimonials about other people that have got success. But for you personally, do you feel like based on everything that we've went through today, like you can actually hit 100K a month with this program? Yeah, man, I think I can. I think you guys have the credit. You guys have the proof. You guys obviously have done this a lot. Like, yeah, man, I think I can make it happen. And it's like, well, cool, man. Look, this is the hardest part for everybody, is this big leap of faith. I promise you, I speak to so many guys on a daily basis. This is the hardest part for everybody. And this is where I might start storytelling a little bit. Hey, man, you remind me a lot of John. All right, John just came into the program. He'd also been burned by 3 other different coaching programs. But I saw in him what I see in you, and it's that you have so much potential, but you're just letting this one decision literally hold power over the way you want to make decisions for your business. So if we can make the numbers work, is this something that you feel like it would actually help you out? Right? And notice what I'm doing is I am handling the objection before price. Because now, when we get into the price, he already said yes, right? He's already said yes before we got into the price. He's already said it. And that's why, like, when you get into the stupid simple price drop, then it's super simple. You make it very easy, right? If you have ad spend involved, you explain ad spend, you explain all the other kind of payments that goes into it, and then you just have your basic program cost. And then from there, it's just discovering if you can afford it and moving forward. Which again, based on your discovery, when we scroll back up here, on the current situation, and that's why I don't only get rev, I also get profit. And that's why I can make a whole nother video on discovery, because I have a crack discovery process to really actually qualify people, even just on the setting call, because we always do a 2-call close process. But you're gonna know based on the profit he's told you he's making early in the call if he can even afford your program. Whether your program's 10K, 12K, 15K, 2K a month, if you have different payment plans, whatever the case is. So you're gonna already know that price will or will not be an objection. And that's why I like to handle objections before I get into price, because if I know, hey, this is gonna be someone I'm probably gonna have to break some payments up, they're probably not gonna be able to afford 10K up front, then I can kind of even pre-frame my price drop and make it in almost, it's the law of reciprocity. I don't know if I said that right, but you're already gonna be kind of leading into your price, doing something for them. You've already done so much for them by helping them discover their pain points and their goals and help them towards their goals and help them shift their beliefs around their goals. But then you're even giving them another reason for, hey, I know you're kind of tight right now. The program's 10K, but we can split it up in 2 payments if that's what you can make work, right? And that's where, like, I can make another video even just about pricing and price drop. But the biggest thing is stupid simple price drop. You don't want to create objections by having a super complicated price and like pricing system. It should always be something very simple and easy to understand. But again, by handling the objection before you drop it in a price and helping them come to their own conclusion through clarifying what the real objection is, isolating what the real objection is, validating their concern, and then reframing by asking leading questions to help them come to their own conclusion on why giving you their credit card and moving forward and getting you paid is the best decision to grow their business. Now pricing and price drop becomes easy, and you don't have to spend an hour negotiating numbers. You can just really actually build a customized game plan for them personally, so they can personally see the success. And let's go all the way back, and this is why I wanted to do this in the beginning, is notice, it always comes back to this. It always comes back that they don't believe it works for them personally. And what do? We build a whole customized approach from the discovery to the temp check, or to the pitch, to the temp check, all the way to even the customized game plan to get them to move forward. And that's what results in you getting richer. So I know I just kind of ranted, but that's kind of like the process, very in short, and like our objection handling process for how we actually handle and that was just the basic I've been burned objection. And I wanted to go over that one because I know for a lot of people watching this stuff online, you're dealing with these objections. You're dealing with I've been burned. And it's because they're uncertain and they don't believe if it's gonna work for them personally because they've been burned by other companies in the past. And this is how you actually make yourself different, because people will always buy different. And that's another thing I wanna talk about, is different beats better all fucking day. And that's kind of how we do it. So, and that's just one example. I could go over so many different objections on how this framework works. But I hope this helped. This is kind of getting to a little bit of a longer video now. I think we're almost like at 40 minutes. But let me know if this helps. Drop below if you want me to go more in detail about like our discovery process and how we actually prevent objections and build a good gap and build a big enough gap for them to make a decision and all the 9 yards. And then also if you guys want me to start putting out some more like tactical stuff, like how to ramp up sales reps, how to hire sales reps, what our hiring process looks like, how to optimize your offer. I mean, there's a lot of different things we can do from the management side as well. And then as always, I got to do the shameless plug here. If you do run an info product doing over 100K a month and you want to go hit $1 million months, go ahead. There's a link in the bio. You can go ahead and fill out the form. Make sure that you're actually applicable for us to work with you. And we can talk about pretty much recruiting and building and leading a sales team for your offer. So that's a wrap on this video. See you guys in the next one. I want to keep doing a little bit more of these. These are fun. And hopefully you guys can kind of stay on track. I know I'm ADHD and kind of go all over the place, but hopefully that helps. Peace out.